Have you ever noticed that your best ideas don't come when you're forcing yourself to think, but when you're doing absolutely nothing? Maybe you've been struggling with a work problem for hours, staring at the screen, only to have the solution suddenly pop into your mind while you're in the shower or taking a quiet walk. Or perhaps you've had a moment of unexpected clarity while lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, when you weren't trying to solve anything at all. These flashes of insight can feel almost magical, but they're not accidents. They reveal something profound about how your brain works. Your mind needs pauses, spaces of stillness, to piece together meaning from the chaos of everyday life. And yet in the modern world, we've almost forgotten how to pause. We rush from one task to the next, fill every spare second with scrolling, and label stillness as wasted time. But here's the paradox. It's in those very pauses that your brain does its deepest, most essential work. So the real question is, why does the brain depend on pauses to create meaning? And how can you learn to use this hidden mechanism deliberately? To answer this, we need to look at what neuroscientists call the default mode network, often abbreviated as DMN. Think of it as the brain's background orchestra. When you're focused on a task, writing an email, cooking, solving a math problem, different circuits in your brain take the lead, like instruments playing a sharp, concentrated melody. But when you stop, when your focus softens, a different set of regions lights up. The default mode network takes over, weaving together memories, emotions, and fragments of thought into a broader, more meaningful picture. In other words, the pause is not a shutdown. It's a shift from execution to integration. If the active brain is like a worker building bricks one by one, the resting brain is the architect stepping back to see what kind of house is being built. This explains why insights appear during stillness. Your DMN is connecting dots that you didn't even realize were related, drawing threads between yesterday's conversation, the article you skimmed, and the nagging question that's been sitting in the back of your mind. Without the pause, all those fragments remain scattered. With the pause, they coalesce into something coherent. From a psychological perspective, pauses act like punctuation in the story of your mind. Imagine reading a book without commas or periods, just an endless stream of words. It would be exhausting and confusing. In the same way, living without pauses makes your inner life feel jumbled and overwhelming. Pauses allow meaning to emerge. Philosophers have long intuited this truth. The Stoics emphasize the importance of stepping back, of examining your thoughts instead of being ruled by them. Eastern traditions, from Taoism to Zen, placed silence and stillness at the heart of wisdom. Modern psychology now confirms what these traditions intuited, that pausing is not avoidance but processing, not wasted time, but essential time. Your brain is wired to use stillness as a tool. But let's bring this down to you and your everyday life. If pauses are so crucial, why do we resist them? Part of the answer lies in how we've come to equate productivity with constant activity. Our culture rewards busyness. Sitting in silence, going for a walk without headphones, or lying on the couch just staring at the ceiling can feel unproductive, even lazy. Yet your brain doesn't measure productivity only in outputs. It measures it in integration. When you refuse pauses, you may feel busy, but you're actually sabotaging your ability to find meaning and direction. Here's an analogy. Imagine a puzzle with 1,000 pieces. You keep picking up pieces and examining them one after another, but never take time to step back and see how they fit together. You may be handling many pieces, but you'll never see the picture. A pause is that moment when you lean back and realize, this piece connects with that one. Without those moments, the puzzle remains fragments. Your life works the same way. Daily experiences, emotions, and information are puzzle pieces. The pause is when your brain assembles them into the bigger picture. So what happens in the brain during these pauses in concrete terms? Functional MRI studies showed that the default mode network integrates memory, emotion, and self-reflection. It helps you understand not just what happened, but what it means for you. For instance, after an argument, your active brain replays the words, the tone, the tension. But during a quiet walk later, your DMN helps you reflect. This wasn't just about what was said. It's about me feeling unheard. That reflection creates meaning, and meaning is what allows you to move forward instead of staying stuck in raw emotion. But knowing that pauses are important isn't enough. You need practical ways to create them. This is where most people struggle. We live in a world designed to fill every empty space. The moment there's silence, you instinctively reach for your phone, open a new tab, or turn on background noise. Pauses don't happen by accident anymore. You have to cultivate them deliberately. And here's the empowering truth. You don't need long retreats or hours of meditation to benefit from pauses. Even small moments can unlock meaning if you use them intentionally. One simple technique is what I call the micro pause. Set aside just 60 seconds between tasks to stop, breathe, and let your mind wander. You don't need to do anything in that moment. Just give your brain space. Another technique is the silent walk. Leave your headphones at home and take a 10-minute stroll. Notice your thoughts drifting, connecting, reshaping. What you're doing is activating your DMN, giving it the space to integrate. A third method is white space journaling. Instead of structured writing, you simply let your pen wander, jotting whatever comes to mind without judgment. Often, connections and insights will surface that you didn't plan. You might worry that pausing means losing momentum, but ironically, pauses preserve momentum by preventing burnout and decision fatigue. Think of a runner who never stops to catch their breath. They'll collapse before reaching the finish line. Strategic pauses, however, allow endurance. In your mental life, it's the same. Pausing is not quitting, it's renewing. Now let's address an important fear: the discomfort of silence. Many people avoid pauses not just because they seem unproductive, but because silence can be unsettling. When you pause, you suddenly hear thoughts and feelings that were drowned out by noise. You may notice anxieties, unresolved conflicts, or doubts. This can feel uncomfortable, but it's precisely why pauses are so powerful. They surface what you've been avoiding, giving you a chance to face it. Think of it like cleaning out a closet. At first, pulling everything out feels messy and overwhelming, but only then can you reorganize and make space for what matters. Pauses do the same for your mind. Let me offer another metaphor. Imagine a glass of muddy water. As long as you keep stirring it, the water stays cloudy. Only when you set it down and let it rest does the sediment sink, leaving the water clear. Your mind is that glass. Constant activity stirs up the sediment. Pauses let clarity emerge. So if you've been feeling foggy, overwhelmed, or stuck, chances are you don't need to push harder. You need to stop stirring. Here's where the philosophical dimension comes back in. Pauses are not just about mental efficiency, they're about meaning. Life is not only about accumulating experiences, it's about making sense of them. Without pauses, even the most extraordinary experiences rush past, leaving you oddly unsatisfied. With pauses, even small ordinary moments can become profound. A smile from a stranger, the warmth of sunlight, the quiet of early morning. These are seeds of meaning that only take root if you stop long enough to notice. This also explains why so many people have their deepest reflections in nature, prayer, or meditation. These are simply structured pauses, moments when the noise of life is turned down so the deeper layers of the mind can speak. You don't need to be religious or a philosopher to access this. You only need to practice the art of stopping. Let's take this from theory to practice. How can you begin to build pauses into your daily life in a way that feels natural, not forced? One useful approach is to see pauses not as something separate from your day, but as hidden spaces already built into it. For example, the moments waiting for the elevator, sitting on a bus, or standing in line at the store. Normally, these moments are instantly filled with a phone, but if you resist that reflex even once or twice a day, you create a natural pause. Instead of checking notifications, simply notice your breath, your body, or the flow of thoughts. These micro-pauses train your brain to shift gears and activate that deeper integration system we've been talking about. Think of them as mental pit stops, short, frequent, and surprisingly powerful. Another tool is what I call the structured pause. This is when you deliberately carve out time for stillness, almost like scheduling an appointment with your own mind. It doesn't have to be long. Even 5 minutes of sitting quietly, eyes closed, focusing on nothing in particular, can create space for your brain to synthesize and reflect. People often resist because they think they need to meditate perfectly or clear their thoughts. But a structured pause isn't about emptiness, it's about openness. Let your thoughts drift and notice what rises. Often clarity arrives uninvited. There's also the creative pause, which you can use when you're stuck on a problem. Instead of hammering away at it, step back and switch activities. Do something low effort. Wash the dishes, water your plants, doodle. These activities occupy your hands just enough to keep your conscious mind busy, but free your unconscious to work in the background. Many artists, scientists, and inventors swear by this method. Archimedes had his famous eureka moment in the bath, not in the lab. Newton saw the falling apple while resting under a tree, not while furiously scribbling equations. Pauses create breakthroughs because they allow the hidden work of your brain to surface. Of course, making space for pauses also requires a shift in mindset. You need to stop treating them as wasted time. Reframe them as mental nutrition. Just as your body needs sleep to consolidate physical health, your mind needs pauses to consolidate psychological meaning. Without them, your thoughts become malnourished, scattered, anxious, superficial. With them, they gain depth, coherence, and direction. This reframing is crucial because it changes the story you tell yourself. When you sit quietly, you're not being lazy. You're feeding your brain exactly what it needs to make sense of life. Let's not ignore the challenge, though. Stillness can feel intimidating at first. Silence can reveal thoughts you'd rather avoid, regrets, insecurities, unfinished conflicts. This is why many people escape into constant noise and activity. But here's the empowering truth. Facing those hidden thoughts is part of the gift of pausing. When they surface, you have a chance to process them instead of letting them fester. Think of it as emotional house cleaning. At first, you'll notice dust and clutter, but with each pause, you create more space, more clarity, more peace. Over time, the silence that once felt threatening becomes a source of comfort. Here's a practical exercise you can try. The 3-breath pause. Before starting your next activity, whether it's sending an email, answering a call, or leaving the house, stop and take 3 slow breaths. On the first breath, notice your body. On the second, notice your thoughts. On the third, let both settle. That's it. It takes less than a minute, but it signals your brain. This moment matters. Integrate it. Try it consistently, and you'll be surprised how much clarity emerges from such a small practice. Another technique is what I call the evening reset pause. Before bed, instead of scrolling, sit quietly in low light and ask yourself one question. What today was meaningful? Don't force an answer. Just let your mind drift. Often, a small, overlooked moment will rise. Someone's kind word, the way the light fell through the window, a thought that stuck with you. By noticing and naming it, you help your brain weave meaning into your day, so you don't carry the sense that time just slipped away. This practice helps combat the feeling of life rushing past without substance. At a deeper level, pauses also touch on philosophy. They remind us that life is not simply about doing, but about being. The ancient Greeks had 2 words for time: chronos, the clock time that ticks forward relentlessly, and kairos, the opportune time, the meaningful moment. Pauses shift you from chronos into kairos. They pull you out of the rushing stream of tasks and into the timeless flow of presence. In that space, even ordinary experiences can feel profound, because you're not just living through them, you're living in them. So when you find yourself overwhelmed, don't only ask, "What should I do next?" Ask also, "Where can I pause?" Sometimes the most powerful step forward is to stop. The irony is that by pausing, you move more effectively, because you're moving from clarity instead of chaos. In the same way that a musician needs rests in a piece of music, you need rests in your mental life. Without them, everything becomes noise. With them, your life becomes melody. If you've ever longed for more meaning, more clarity, more direction, the answer may not be to add more tasks, but to create more space. Pauses are where your brain takes all the raw material of your life and weaves it into a story that makes sense. They're where insight is born. They're where you rediscover that being alive is not just about surviving the day, but about experiencing it fully. So next time you catch yourself filling every second with noise, remember this: your mind doesn't just need action, it needs pauses to transform action into meaning. And if this video has helped you see the power of stillness in a new way, share it with someone you know who could use a pause in their life. And make sure to like, subscribe, and join us here at Mind Unlocked, your toolkit for better thinking, and for building a life not just of constant motion, but of clarity and depth.